When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ledlow, and enjoy today's episode. Great advice on the whole spectrum of dealing with clients and different organizations out there. Every client has different needs out there, and maybe stocking, maybe crypto, could be cyber. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it's just such a vast industry that we work in.
Yeah, I think, Mark, most of the time that I see folks that have some level of, let's just say, situational awareness about their personal security for executives. Because you deal with a full spectrum, right? You have some individuals that don't even really pay attention to what's going on, but those that do, that are not necessarily concerned, but they know enough that they're taking some level of action. It's typically not what they're doing, it's what people in and around their circle are doing. So when you talk about social media, maybe they've locked down their accounts. Maybe they're very good about not putting information out that easily identifies where they live or their routines. The issues that I see have to deal with people that they're close to, though. There may be family members. There may be, other relatives that are posting things. There may be friends of individuals. I'll give you an example. As I was auditing the digital footprint of this one particular executive who was recently married within the last year, he had pretty much locked down. They didn't post anything about their personal activity, but somebody who had attended their wedding had posted a video of the wedding location and, more importantly, the actual invitation. Something as simple as that. And I was able to source that, and that's how I was able to validate and confirm where the wedding actually took place and when it occurred. And now you've got, not only do you have that individual identified as, right, someone who's close to your principal, but who are you inviting to your wedding? You're inviting your family, friends, and closest people to you, closest business people to you, right? Partners, people that you develop long-term relationships with. So now all of a sudden, I've identified one person that has a connection. And through that, I now have a whole host of 200 other parties that are there that have different types of connections to this CEO, that now, if I wanted to pursue that, I'm going to learn as much as I possibly can about that individual through their interactions with their friends and family. No question. So how do what do you do to prevent that from happening, right? You can't lock down everyone.
You can't, right? Yeah,
that's
what I've
the
seen, you bring up a great case study, Ken. I'm actually connected on Instagram to the founder of Dutch Brothers. I'm actually friends with him. I knew him before he was a billionaire.
Wow.
And so I know his code name, and we're friends on Facebook and all that. We used to bump into each other at the baseball card shop up here in Grants Pass. And we talked to him and his brother. They're really cool at surfer dudes, selling coffee by the post office at the railroad tracks in Grants Pass. And he's a billionaire. He got a private jet. And once in a while, I can hear the private jet flying in, landing at the Merlin Airport. But the reason why I bring up the Dutch Brothers CEO is he has an Instagram account, but he doesn't post his daily stuff like, the teeny boppers and the influencers. They post everything if they get paid for it. But the true billionaires that are out there, a lot of them, they just don't post anything like, oh, happy Easter, Merry Christmas, and a family event with kids, at a concert. But they do it after the fact. Mm-hmm. And I have another friend who's a multimillionaire, lives off by Applegate. I've known for years, and him and his wife will post something on their page once in a while. Oh, at the river, daughter got married. That little stuff. They don't like, hey, we're here having a party. Like the billionaires and the millionaires out there, they just don't really to tell the world what they're up to. And most of
Right.
them are just scrubbed. But it's more, I think, information posting that they do, life events and stuff. But a lot of them, I think they kind of keep it quiet on what their daily activities are. And I think the ones that are trying to be billionaires and millionaires are one posting every day. Hey, this is what, or you're marketing your business like I do. We market, hey, we're going to be here for a mixer. Hey, we've got this training going on. But from a even I used to be bad at that when I was younger in the EP industry and social media was new. I'd post some stupid stuff. Oh, I should probably take that down. Security OPSEC, and
Right.
but now I see everybody. Everybody's trying to brand themselves, market themselves, trying to get business. But I think that the key thing is, are your clients really looking on Instagram to find you, or are they on LinkedIn to find you, or on YouTube to find you? We live in a digital age where the buyers are on social media 24/7. The younger people, that's how they research you. That's how they vet you and to see who you're connected with and all that. And I had Elijah Shaw on a long time ago, and he said he had done a podcast with somebody, and somebody reached out to him as an executive assistant, wanted to meet him for dinner. The next thing you know, led him to his biggest client. So you just don't know. You just got to keep it professional. And I think
Right.
for the industry, I think stay away from politics and religion, stay apolitical. If you're a business entity, unless you have your Facebook locked down, share whatever you want to share. But it's just social media has become a great tool if you use it correctly, and then sometimes a detriment to others who don't know how to use it correctly, and they get themselves thrown off the details, and they go, "Oh, what'd I do? You posted the tail number, the plates of our principal. You're out. See ya. You violated our NDA."
Right. Right. Yeah, I think it's one of those situations where this next generation is growing up with social media. It's a part of their daily lives. It's how they communicate with everyone around them, and so I think it's something that they have to be aware of. There was a time where we had really separated what we did personally versus professionally, and that line has blurred so much, Mark. Um, and I think when you look at the negative things as a result of these lines blurring, I really attribute, sort of the things that are have increased, not necessarily increasing risk. I think it's more about the visibility and accountability is increased rather than the risk increasing. In other words, it's just we're seeing more of things that we didn't have the visibility to before. And people are very much cavalier about posting things, and they don't think too much about the negative implication or how it could be used in a manner in which they had no intention of. And once you post, the cat's out of the bag. You can't take it back. It's there. You may delete something, but someone's all if you put it out to a wide enough audience, somebody's going to capture that, and there's no turning back. And so certainly I think there needs to be that pause and consideration whenever you're looking at publishing anything. You need to take a step back and sort of evaluate whether or not that's the right thing to do.
And then too, I know the young people, or a lot of people, that they'll vet you if you're not on social media, you don't exist. And some people I know, they just got off Facebook completely and deleted their whole profile. You can't even find them. And
Yeah.
same thing with Instagram. But people just don't want that in their lives because of maybe political reasons, or they just want the privacy back, and they just don't want their lives being shared about. And so with AI and all that, who knows where that will drive those type of decisions.
Yeah, well, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talk about what's going to happen in the future relative to AI and the ability, the deep fakes. Heck, just the other day, you'll find this. I think you'll find this interesting and crack up about it. So as I'm going through my process with my podcast, I decided, I'm gonna take a clip and I want to convert it into Spanish. And so so I wanted to, because I want to broaden my audience and get some Spanish speakers perhaps engaged in some of the content. And so I ran it through AI, and I was expecting just translation and, perhaps some closed caption that would just enable a Spanish speaker to be able to, read and perhaps listen to the content. And Mark, I mean, you can go to my YouTube channel. You can see the video.
I'm already laughing.
It literally looks like I'm speaking Spanish and articulating the words in the video, and my guest. And I was just blown away by how realistic it not only looks, but even has my tone. So when you listen to the voice, and if you know my voice and you then listen to the Spanish that the AI has translated, it's like, wow. I mean,
was it that scary?
Yeah. It's that scary, man. So that's where we're headed. Yes, exactly. So yeah, interesting. It was very, very interesting. So
yeah. I mean, I know you can do AI. I think Joe LaSorsa, shout out to Joe for what he does for the industry. I know sometimes he uses AI for doing advanced work and all that. I think he's saying some diagrams on his Facebook private group page where he gives a lot of resources on how to do advanced work, and just all the tools and gadgets that guy comes across is just crazy. But technology, if you use it correctly, it can be your personal assistant and get you a lot of work done in one day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and that's the future, right? We're all trying to figure out how to leverage the technology. I think it's, what's most important is just understanding the appropriate use for it. The fact that you can leverage it from a productivity standpoint, transactional, task-based types of things is fine. The human judgment will always remain, and you should always make sure to emphasize the judgment that you bring, as opposed to what AI's capability will ever be. And so as we look at implementing AI and security operations, that's fine in the transactional things and all of those things that, we think we can make more efficient. But, we've got to be cognizant of, the drawbacks of it as well, and not become dependent on it. It should augment what we're doing as professionals. It shouldn't replace things, in my opinion.
Like if a company's hiring you to do a risk assessment, threat assessment, I think you should do it and maybe create a template for it. But please don't run it through AI to do your work for you, because the client all they have to do is copy and paste it and see what AI comes up with. And if you're charging a client $30,000-$40,000 for a piece of work and you have AI do your work, and all they have to do is just run it, and if it comes out the same way that could there be some legalities to that client facing if they discover that? I wonder.
Again, I'm not an attorney, so I always preface that. But I would say, and I think if you're not producing your own work product, then, you're exposing yourself at minimum reputationally, right? So that would be the key there. I don't necessarily think that there's any specific things related to perhaps infringing on others' rights when it comes to that. It's really about, people trying to cut corners and or not really having the capability that they say they do, right? Not having the experience, the depth, the knowledge to be able to really assess an environment based upon, their background and skill set and what they've done. So I think those people are easily identifiable by those in the industry. You're going to fool some of the people some of the time, but again, I think that type of action is going to catch up with you ultimately.
Reputation, people talk in the industry too. The industry is very small as well. It shrinks rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
As we got out of COVID, now we're, I don't know, 5 years out of it. People tell me that this business has kind of been slow out there. I mean, I think for some people, and if you're in the exec protection industry, I hear some people are slow, some people are busy, depending on who has the contracts and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
What's your forecast for the end of the year? Do you think business is going to pick up, and where could the young generation get some guidance from you on what they should go after and what they should look for? Say they want to be an EP team, or maybe you look at analyst, protective intelligence type of work. What do you think would be the hot type of needs for agents and analysts out there?
Mm-hmm. I think how you position yourself is going to be important. First, I would say this. Don't try to be all things to all people. I think that's a mistake. I think you need to evaluate your strengths. First off, you need to really focus in on the one or two things, services, whatever it is that you do professionally. I think you really need to isolate the top one or two things, Mark, and double down and triple down on that. Become very specialized in one or two things. And the reason I say that, because the market's so competitive, when there is work, there's a lot of people that are after it. And you need to develop a reputation for being the best or near the best in these specific spaces, whatever that might look like. Now, and I've talked about this strategy with other independent providers. So let's say you are in the EP business and you provide agents, and you primarily work in certain regions of the United States or just the United States. I think it's a mistake to try to chase work in areas in which you're not strong in already. I think the idea would be better suited to focus in on where you're already strong, right? In markets in which where you're strong. Perhaps look at the verticals that are there in those markets and look to expand in verticals. In other words, if you primarily have clients in the financial services space or the big box space, look at within the same regions where you're strong, look at other types of verticals within that space, whether they be tech oriented or perhaps health services oriented, and map your services to those verticals and target those verticals to expand your business. So again, focus on what you're strong in and double and triple down there. If you happen to be a provider who does have a strong presence in Mexico, as an example, Mexico is very volatile, right? Just recently, you have the two CIA professionals that were just murdered. Now, you have a lot of things happening in that space. If you're somebody who has some depth, has resources in that part of the world, you need to double and triple down on that because of the volatility in that space. There's a lot of businesses that are operating in those environments. If you look at key corridors, they need the assistance. They need the guidance. Position yourself as a strategic advisor, right? That's, I think, the key thing is how you present yourself in the market to your clients is going to be, I think, really important as the year progresses. You want to be that person that they first think of and they pick up the phone and call when they have a question about something and they need your assistance, and their perception of you is not just someone who provides a security service, but you're a strategic advisor to that company. And I think that's a distinguishing factor that we have to pay attention to as we navigate forward, because that'll get you through the slow times.
Yeah,
in my
absolutely.
opinion.
Good point. Strategic. That's just how the enterprise people think.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And and it can be as simple as making sure that you're on a regular cadence, you're reaching out to your clients, to people that you know in the industry, so that when they do need you, they're going to think of you first. And so that cadence, needs to happen in slow times and fast times. Whether you're busy and you've got more work than you can handle, you still need to reach out to those clients and make those contacts and plant those seeds.
Yeah, when it's slow, you should be, like you said, Ken, you should be maximizing, I call them follow-up calls, clients that you work for, say, hey, how you doing? How things going out there? And my little secret sauce is when I have an ongoing detail, I'll call that client once a week, either Monday or Friday, just follow up, hey, how are things going? What's going on? And that client actually told me the other day, because you're the only one of my vendors that calls and asks me how things are going. Nobody else does that. I'm like, really? I thought that was just common sense. But some people just don't business. They sign a contract and they disappear. But people don't know how much you know until they know how much you care. And then they repeat the business and the call back. And it's just how I've done business. But be front of mind, however that is. Like, you do a podcast every weekend and boom, it drops. Oh, who do you talk to now? Curiosity. Keep that curiosity going. And you also have a consulting business where you mentor business owners too, don't you?
Yeah, I've always been active in that space, right? I think, and this is I'm glad you asked me about this, because I think this is a key consideration in leadership. I think before we think about mentorship, or we thought about mentorship as something we did when we had time, when, the extra time that we would volunteer, if you will. And today, Mark, I look at mentorship as an extension of leadership. I don't think you can be a leader without being a mentor today. I think it's that important. Those are things that I don't charge for. Those are things that I just make available to people. And oftentimes, how I've gotten through challenging times as a business owner is when I come to something where I'm just struggling, Mark. I can't get past it. I just can't find the solution on my own. And what I'll do is I will take a step back. I will literally call someone and offer to help them with the problem that they're having. Mm-hmm. Just so that I can reframe what I'm doing, help someone else out with something they're dealing with, and then refocus back once I've completed that back to my own problem. So there's a certain level of selfishness, if you will, too, sure. Because I'm trying to figure out how can I deal with whatever it is that I'm dealing with. And I often find that by helping others and refocusing my attention, and then coming back, I'm able to address, whatever I'm working on in an alternate way, or with a new idea, and it helps me. So it's much about helping others as it is about helping yourself.
Yeah.
And I think it's just good karma, Mark.
It is. I mean, that actually happened to me within the last 6 months. A buddy of mine in the Bay Area. He's currently in an embedded position with a family office. Hated his situation, stagnant, very talented, very gifted. And a friend of mine in the industry reached out, took over a program, and said, hey, I'm looking for somebody for an FTE position for this program I'm building with this huge enterprise that he's in. I'm like, oh, I know the perfect guy. And so I got his email, did an intro email, said, hey, you, why don't you guys connect together? Maybe there might be some synergy here. Maybe there might be some way you guys work together. You guys take it up from there. And I didn't ask for anything. Didn't say, hey, I need a dime, a referral fee. No. What you do is you play the long game, help a brother out, and help a fellow colleague in the industry out. He's trying to look for somebody for an embedded FTE position within his enterprise, and it goes well. The guy gives himself a raise and helps his family out. And guess what? In the long term, they remembered that you connected the two together in the long term. Plant a seed. And I didn't ask for a charge. I didn't ask for a fee. Just trying to be the nice guy, helping the industry out. Just planting seeds. Because down the road, something comes up, guess who they're going to probably call? Hey, we need help.
Yeah, I think that's good business, right? It's good business. It's good. It's being a good industry professional. It's being a good person, right? Because ultimately, you're working towards helping identify solutions, right? Helping others. And I think ultimately that's, I remember when you were talking to Michael Gibbs on the podcast that you just published with Michael, the interview you did with him, which was great.
Thanks.
And I recall when Michael talked about there's no greater calling, right, than being a sort of service and sure. helping others. And that certainly resonated in terms of his, the way he thinks about why it's so important to help others. And so, there's no question. I think at the end of the day, doing more of that, demonstrating that, and it's not, just doing it to do it, with the intention of, something coming back your way. It's being genuine. You're genuine about making those connections. That's the key, right? You're genuine about, you wanting to help others succeed. And that's to be commended, Mark.
Because I think the industry, from what I've experienced over the years, about 20 years in this industry now, I think I got discouraged by all the takers. Everybody's taking. But who really gives back? Maybe 1% of the 90% give back. And I'm thinking, well, how do we change that? If we're all taking, and if you don't get any back, and I realize too, the industry is very territorial. And also, there's a lot of contractual things going on between client and company that have contracts. So naturally, everybody's going to be almost kind of paranoid who gets too close to the chest, who gets too close to the information. So there's almost like a paranoia that's already there. People they don't share information easily unless you need to know. And I think that comes with that whole thing, keeping everybody at bay, keep everything kind of secretive. And I think once you establish yourself as a reputable person that can be trusted, and then people start calling you, hey, I need help. Do you know anybody? And say, yeah, this person, try it. Give them a call. And you take your hands off it. Hey, I don't need a referral fee and all that. That just goes a long way. But I think, like you said, of service. And I personally try to change my mentality in the last few years of, the podcast. But, I don't get paid for it. I don't ask people for fees to come on some big podcast. I know they want 5,000, 10,000 because you get 1 million downloads an episode. I'm like, I'm not worried about that because that's not my motivation.
Right. You want to be very targeted with what you're trying to accomplish. And
sure.
I feel the same way. It's one of those things where, we're not after huge numbers. We're after, more about the quality of what you're providing in terms of the content and helping individuals that find value in the content. Right. And so as long as there's folks listening, whether it's one person, push out content and you help one person, that's more than enough in my opinion. It's more about looking back and I didn't necessarily have these access to these resources that we do today. So another part of helping is legacy too, Mark. It's about it's about leaving something that we've spent a career, a lifetime working on, and providing a record of what we did, and hopefully someone will benefit from it in the future.
Yeah, now you say legacy. I'm like, holy smokes, 50 years from now, this will be recorded as a library. What's going to happen to the industry? Will be so far moved on I don't even
Yeah.
know if this information will be relevant. AI will take over with robotic agents on the ground, like the little dog telling people to get off the property.
Yeah.
Robot
Exactly.
dog. How will our industry change in 50 years from now? And we'll be Ken and Mark will be on a podcast on YouTube. Well, even YouTube
Yeah.
exists at that point. What are they going to do with this information? I'm like, I'll be up here. I'll be
Yeah, exactly.
80 years old. Go, oh
Exactly.
my God, I was so young then.